Good morning, everybody. Happy day after Thanksgiving, Gratitude Day, and Black Friday. So many of you might be on the computer today, out shopping instead of out literally shopping, and hopefully you can tune in. And I have an amazing guest today in my Shameless Facebook Friday Live series that I've been doing now for the past few months. And gosh, I can't say enough about how much this woman means to me. And you'll know why when we talk more today. But she's a medium, and she's an incredible heart healer for people who, are experiencing loss. And I believe that, she really brings grace into many people's lives. So I'd like to introduce Elise Mangione. Did I say that right?
It's Malangone, but it's
Mal-
totally okay.
oh, I always say it, spell it wrong. But hi. Hi, Elise. I'm just going to say Elisa. Or Elise. Look at
It's
me.
it,
My food hangover. See, I
I
can't.
love it. No, I love it. I answer to all versions.
Okay, so tell us your name and tell us about what you
Well,
do.
hi there, Patty. Yes, and hi everybody. Happy Friday. Happy Black Friday if those of you who are celebrating on either your computer or going out to shop. I'm Elisa Malangone. I'm a spiritual medium and transformational coach. What I do mainly through my gifts of mediumship, that part of my platform, is that I help people, I hold space for those who are grieving from a loss. And I help people find hope and clarity and even closure if they need it. But a lot of times people just come in to my office or into my practice for clarity and messages from loved ones in spirit. So that's basically what I do. The transformational coaching side also helps people find empowerment within. But that mediumship side, I help people find grace and comfort and healing through my messages.
Yeah, and I know I've witnessed you do that for myself and others. And yeah, so I think what you do is amazing, and I think it's really needed, and especially right now.
Oh,
Everybody's
thanks.
holidays, and it's really hard for people when they've lost a loved one over the holidays. I just want to say real quick, if you're here, let us know. Say hello, and we can say hello to you. And if you have any questions for Elisa, feel free to put it into the chat box. But um, yeah, so grateful to have you here today. And yeah, do you?
So grateful to be here. Thank you, Patty.
Oh, thank you. So tell us maybe a story or two about how you've seen people feel comforted through your work.
Okay, yes. Well, what I usually do is, when I share with people my process, I always share in the beginning with, I don't profess to know how anybody's reading's going to go because I know that God is in control, that spirit is in control, that source is in control. And so I just simply let go and let God. And what I totally love is the the changes and the shifting that goes on, the epiphanies that happen, the oneness that people feel, the it feels like there is a complete, when someone sits with me and a loved one comes through with a validating message, it feels you can just really see the light come back on in their eyes. And that is just such an empowering and, for me, a comforting and such a compassionate thing to see. And I just am so grateful that I get to hold space for that and get to witness it head on.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah, it must be. I mean, I know how it feels to me when I hear a message from Lawrence or someone who's passed on. It's, I don't know, it helps us feel that we're still connected, even though, my belief is that we're always connected and we're never alone from my own passage of grief throughout my lifetime.
Sure.
But yet it's so comforting to hear those words from you. When you know you just you like every once in a while you'll call me up and you'll say, Lawrence wants me to tell you this. And I get super excited.
Yes, and I know it's so interesting because I always say, well, listen, I know that I'm just supposed to deliver this, but this really sounds weird. What is up with, and let's just say something comes in with like, what's up with whistle? And they all speak in riddles and rhymes. It almost feels like sometimes it almost feels like playing a little bit of spiritual charades. So I'll come in and go, Lawrence wants to talk about the bill, the finances, the whistle, and you know, sometimes you might have to like process through it, but some of it you're like, oh yeah, no, I understand that part of it. And it's so wonderful to see the lights come back on with people when they know they're connecting with their loved one.
Right. Yeah. Looks like we have Michelle Gooden. Is that one of your?
Yes, hi there, Michelle. How are you? Welcome.
Yeah. Thanks
You're
for.
gonna love Dr. Patty. I said she's gonna love you.
Oh, well,
Yes,
I'm glad to
yes.
hear. Yeah. Yeah.
And also, Patty, one thing that I always seem to like see also in my space is I like to welcome those who come in to just be exactly where they are. And during the holidays, they come in and it's quite raw, and it's okay. They need a safe place to be exactly where they are. If they're angry, be angry. If they're sad, be sad. If their loved one comes in, sometimes they come in very jokingly. I know Lawrence has come in sometimes very, very funny, which he always kind of had that cute, surly, was it kind of surly sense of
Oh,
humor?
a good word. Yeah.
Yeah, and he really I loved it though, because it was always so what I do is I share with others that you be exactly where you need to be. There are 5 boxes of tissue here, and I've got a baseball bat underneath the desk if you need to hit things. Not to that extreme, but and a lot of sometimes people will come in and be, I'm just angry at you right now. And please understand that it's not that I don't love you, but why did you leave? And sometimes it's not always, you know, it's not always laughs and giggles or it feeling comforted. Sometimes they're getting out their grief the best way they know how. I know one time, and I get permission to share this, but I had one widow who came in. She was like, "Oh, he is he? He's happy, is he? He's at peace, is he? Okay, you know what, effer." you where's the address, the address that I can forward all of this extra to, all of the bills, all of the heartache, all the pain.
Yeah.
And it's okay to do that. But I know a lot of times we sit and the loved one comes in so comforting, where there's laughter, there's sorrow, there's crying, there is a mashup of emotions. And I feel that when that person leaves my office, even though we've gone through an hour of whirlpool emotions, they come out feeling a little more balanced, a little more clear, in knowing that their loved one is near. And that's my purpose, is to do that.
I'm so glad you said that because I think it leads me, or my mind went to this place that I've been wanting to explain and bring language to. Sometimes these things are hard to language, but the
Mhm.
idea that, grief and grace and joy and sorrow all kind of live in the same, they're really good friends. So so
Yes.
oftentimes we live in such a culture, I say this all the time, that wants to get over our pain and
Mhm.
just feel better. And really the the truth is we have to go through the pain. So to give people a space, here they're coming to connect with their loved one who's passed on with you, and yet you give them a space to be with their feelings. I'm just getting goosebumps because it's,
Mm.
you know, I mean, I really think we can't deny our human experience of loving. The deeper we love, the deeper is our grief, right?
Oh, absolutely.
And anger is a really important part of grief because it helps energize us and helps us move through and helps us be connected to what the human experience is if you left me with these bills and this life and, ah. So
Right. The sleepless nights and yeah, the heaviness and the heartache.
yeah, we're glad you're happy, but really?
Right. Really, mister? Really? Yes.
Well, thank you for that because I think that is so important. And I think people are afraid of that. People are afraid to feel bad. I have this theory that, a lot of the reason we're having an increase in mental health issues and even suicide is because people are trying so hard to get out of feeling bad instead of honoring their grief
Right.
and holding
Exactly.
themselves and finding the enlightened witnesses like yourself and me who can sit with them in that, and that's how we get through it. And that's that's the good news, bad news, right?
It is. Absolutely. And you weighed a good issue there with the the feelings and the emotions. They're all kind of mixed and moshed up together. Similar to like nervousness and excitement being almost the same energy. But one thing that I'd like to point on is when you touched on that is that our grief actually lies in the same area with our intuition.
Mm,
And so, because I that's one thing that I hear a lot from loved ones who are coming in to connect with their loved ones. They say, for some reason, I just when they first passed, I was able to feel them all the time. And that was really before the grief really set in, wasn't it? You know? And now I can't feel them enough. And sometimes the answer to that could be that your grief and that intuition, they really lie in that solar plexus area, you know, of your intuition. And sometimes your intuition is sometimes overwhelmed by that grief.
wow.
And so be gentle and gracious with yourself and knowing that there'll be some days that the grief is so heavy, you may not feel like you're connecting, but you are.
Mhm. Well, and also when you were saying that, it's also, I think, as we move through the grief, I know for me, I know Lawrence is always with me, but I don't. It's not like he's like front and center. He'll make himself front and center every now and then when I know he wants to,
Yes.
with a ladybug or something. But it's almost when you said that, I thought, well, because I feel like I've processed so much of that grief. It's been 4 years now, and of course, it's sad still, but it's not like grief sad where it's like gut wrenching.
Sure.
And when I was in that gut wrenching horrible, the one thing that helped was feeling him near me. And so,
Hmm.
when you said that, I was like, well, that's interesting because I don't feel him as much. And sometimes I'm like, where are you? But then
Right.
I'm also not so much in my grief. So um, I don't know if that's what you were trying to say, but that's what came up to me when you said it. So
Right. Yeah. Well, and that's just really when you're heavy in your grief that I've noticed that the intuition and the area of grief, they kind of lie in the same area. And sometimes your intuition is stronger and sometimes your grief is a little bit more empowering. But like you just said, you're 4 years into this and your grief isn't as much, but sometimes you wonder if you wonder where he is and feeling. So that may not even be the case. But a lot of times when you're for the first few years or whatever and you're trying to connect, that could be the issue. So be gentle with yourself.
well, and I have a client too who said to me, because she knows that I'm all into this stuff, and her father died. And
Mm,
months later she goes, I just can't connect with him. I don't know why. You talk about how Lawrence and your dad show up, and I want my dad to show up. And then a little bit later in our session, she starts talking about how she was camping and saw a moose. And she was talking about the moose, and she goes, my dad always loved moose.
uh-huh.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Don't necessarily connect the dots. They think it ought to be like seeing your loved one sitting on the foot of your bed having a conversation when it's
Right.
these, like you were saying, these other little riddles that show up.
Mhm.
That to me is the magic of the grace, right?
Exactly, the symbols and the synchronicities and signs.
Mhm.
You would need to be alert enough to at least be able to pay attention to it because just like you just said, she saw a moose. Oh, and dad used to love mooses. Oh, that's great. Oh, you don't think, oh, hello, dad, you know? Hi,
Right.
Dad. Because you try to rationalize it away. I always share that with people. The flickering light bulb. Oh, the light bulb needs to be changed. Well, we could rationalize that away, but 3 times in a row, okay, synchronicities. So spirit also works in synchronicities and signs. And a moose probably didn't need synchronicities because it's so big and vivid, and it's right there in your face. And so, Dad cued in the moose
Right.
for sure.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's the little things, and I guess because I lost my father when I was really young, and my whole life of trying to, embrace grief and grace has led me to really appreciating those moments. Like when the ladybug hit me in the head the other day, I was like, "Oh, hi, Lawrence," or pennies from heaven. He used to say that his mother had told him after she died that if he found a penny, that it would be her. So of course, every time he found a penny, now every time I find a penny, and another friend of mine said her brother sent a feather, you know, and
Yeah.
these little things that if we can be open to taking it in, as Lawrence would say, there he is. He's like,
Mhm.
Patty, take it in. Take in these little synchronicities, as you're saying, which to me are just little gifts of grace.
Right. Absolutely. Beautiful little gifts of grace. Yes, that come in. Definitely. And during the holidays, I know how I've witnessed how rough it is for a lot of my clients. But I've also, over the past 6 years, I've been able to observe and how their loved one shows up for the holidays, and or what the special things they do to get through it. I've learned so much from my clients as well on how to handle grief through the holidays. And I love so many of the traditions that a lot of my clients do. A lot of people will share with me, "Oh, I bet you're slow during the holidays." I'm like, "No, are you kidding me? That's when everybody wants to visit." and and so like one thing is I've been honored enough to be invited to a lot of my clients holiday dinners, and they'll set a place setting for their loved one, and I love it. They'll, some will have pictures or one of their favorite items,
Yeah.
there at the table, and it's just such an honor to witness as
Mhm.
well, to special things around the Christmas tree, or putting special ornaments, or having stories, sharing stories with the ornaments through the through the Christmas tree, or whatever religion that you you celebrate. Orchestrating them into your practices,
Mhm.
whether whatever rituals you do during the holidays, have that loved one there. So I've witnessed that, and it's been so wonderful to learn and to witness from my clients how they've brought their loved ones in for the holidays while grieving.
Yeah, and that's another thing I always talk about is how sometimes I know in my experience in my family and my upbringing with the loss was we don't talk about death because it's too painful.
Mhm.
What I've learned in my life is it's the opposite. It's let's talk about him because it may be sad for a while, for years and years and years, or maybe forever. We might cry when we talk about him. But what I know is that that's how we move the grief is by,
Mhm.
and that's how we feel the grace and the comfort of being close to them,
Right.
tell the story. That's all I could say to people, is, "What do you need? I just let me tell the story. Let me talk about Lawrence. Let me talk about my dad. Let me talk about the people I love who passed on." But what happens for people a lot of times is they get really uncomfortable. They're like, "Whoa, that's too painful. We wanna help you with your pain." And again, back to what I said earlier, we wanna help you get out of that. And so what you're describing is such a gift on many levels because I'm sure you actually bring messages forth for people as well while you honor them and share
Mhm.
stories. And oh, I love that. Love that
Yeah.
much. What a gift.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you. And it's just really, each person grieves in their own way.
Mhm.
And so allowing someone to talk about their loved ones, that's another thing we do in while I'm holding space for them when they're in my office, or if we have Zoom sessions. Sometimes they just want to talk about them, and then their loved one chimes in.
Mhm.
It becomes such a beautiful coffee talk conversation that
Yeah,
I get to witness and be a part of, as well.
yeah, I know. It's a beautiful thing that you do, and I
Oh,
know I'm
thank
gonna
you.
have our friend Kim Murdoch on in her book Permission to Grieve. I love it, love it, love it, love it.
Mhm.
That's why she wrote the book, is because she wanted to give people permission to grieve, and also to understand that, these whole stories that people tell us about, get over it, move on, when you going to date again, let's move on to the next thing, instead of allowing us to be with the experience of the grief when we're in it. That's the transformation, right? As a transformational
Absolutely.
coach, I mean, to me, I think that's the how we turn the lead into gold, is entering into that dark night, and people are afraid of that. So
They seem to be, absolutely. And that was one thing when I first started in this. So many people had asked me, actually, I was just answering the call after 42 years of being beat up by spirit, saying, yeah, this is what you're supposed to do. This is what you're supposed to do. So many people have said, how are you going to be able to sit with such heaviness? And I said, I know that there's going to be a way, because this is what I'm supposed to do. And it's worked out so beautifully, because when I'm holding space for people, they get to be exactly where they need to be. And that's okay. And it's perfect in the moment. And I love that a session, so many people have shared that one session with me sometimes has helped, where years of, not saying therapy, don't go to therapy, but where years of therapy didn't hit, and of course, I still suggest they go to their counseling, but, yes. And, speaking of Kim, I actually interviewed her not too long ago, and it was just so great to, hear her perspective, and that it's okay to be raw. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to be exactly where you are. And the what people, I feel like what people try to do sometimes in their from a heart space, but they're just not sure how to handle and navigate through grief, is they try to pair people up with other, either widows or people who have lost. So here, I'm going to take you over here, and I'm going to bring you to someone else who has also experienced this, and you two go have fun and heal each other, and I've done my part. Well, the truth is that all you really need to do is just hold space. Just be there and listen, and hold space and say, I love you. I remember just recently I had a session with a widow, and it was on the day of her husband's passing away. And the only thing that I could really say afterwards was, I hope you have a very peaceful day. And because, just after we just had a visit with her loved one, I thought maybe saying, I hope you have a great day, after all of that, I felt like that would have been too sensitive. And what came to me was, I hope you have a peaceful day. And she even said, well, you know what, that is the most perfect thing to say, because it's really all about peace, and it's
right,
really all about love.
right, right, and that's so important too, because I think of that sometimes too. If somebody's really in the middle of something really heavy, I'm like, "Have a great day." I'm like, "Oh, doesn't
Right.
quite fit." So
Yeah.
I'd have a peaceful day. Um, oh gosh, so many questions were coming in, and now I'm just like, kind of, where was I? What was I going to say? I don't know. Tell us more.
Well, but like when you were talking about the whole sometimes we don't know what to say. That goes back to that George Carlin joke when he's like, everybody's like, have a good day, have a good day. He says, why can't anyone just say, I hope you have a crappy day? you know, and it's so funny where it's like we're so programmed
Yeah.
to have these exit phrases
Right.
that sometimes we need to tune into the heart and
Mhm.
just say, I hope you're okay today. And I'm not quite sure how to love you,
Right.
but I hope you have a peaceful day.
Right.
I'm praying for your peace. I hope you have a peaceful and loving day.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah. And I think like you're talking about holding the space, I think of it, I call it being an enlightened witness.
Yeah.
Sit with somebody,
Ooh,
it's such a gift because, as I've been on my journey of trying to make sense of all this, when I stumbled upon the idea of mirror neurons and how when we connect with another person, we actually activate the same neurons in our brain as the other person. So if I'm an enlightened witness and I'm sitting with somebody in grief, I'm going to feel as if I'm in that grief. And that's the good news, bad news. That's the gift and and
yes,
and the challenge, like you were saying, people were asking you, how are you going to do this? And I
right.
said, I know, and that which reminds me of one of my questions. So I'll get back to that. But um, being able to be that enlightened witness is such a gift, and it's so hard because again, we live in a culture that wants to make things better, fix it, move on. Let's tidy it up, that grief, and put it over here and get on with your life. Which we all need to get on with our life at some point. It's that we have to give grief the time and the grace it needs to for our bodies and our psyches and our minds to process.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes, I'll share with people, I've noticed a lot of mediums are able to keep that emotional side aside in order to deliver the messages. Sometimes they have to. They have to check in their emotions in order to deliver the messages. But one thing with me is I'll be passing the tissue back and forth and asking for it back because you made a good point there. When I am in this with my clients, we are in this together. So you will get emotion from me. I will be crying with you just as much as you are. And I always tell people it's business as unusual for me because, for me, my platform is if you are a client, you do become family, you do become friends. If you are sitting there in my office, I will connect with you. We do become one. We are in this together. So I'm glad that you pointed on that as well.
And it's
Yeah.
tricky. It's empathy. I mean, and studies have shown
Mhm.
empathy is the most effective therapeutic um, quality we can have. And the more I've worked with my shame research, that's
Yeah.
the thing. And I had a therapist the other day say to me, and I actually was so upset about it. He said, "Well, I tell my clients, I'll help them get out of the well, but I won't go down into the well with them." And I was like, "Whoa, okay,
Oh
well,
my.
let me tell you how I see it." And we just couldn't like align. And I realized, this is how people have different ideas, and he just sees it different. But yeah, I think I'm not going to drown in the well. I have to know how to get myself out, but I'm definitely going to go down there. And by the
Right.
end of the week of me seeing clients, I'm feeling a lot of feels, and I have to decompress. But that also gives it's such a gift that I get to share
Yeah.
intensity with the people that I work with.
Oh, absolutely. And what a gift that is. You go down into the well with them and you bring a flashlight.
Yeah, yeah,
So I totally love that. I love that.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And the well is anyway. Metaphorically, when I think about the Mary Magdalene story and how
Mhm.
Mary Magdalene at the well, I mean, the well is where it all happens, right?
Yes,
Like
absolutely.
place.
Yes.
I just want to acknowledge we also have Trisha here. Hi, Trisha, and that Michelle was giving you some positive feedback of gratitude for helping her with her friend's suicide.
Mm. Oh, yes. Yeah. Thank you, Michelle. Yeah, and Michelle's a real sweetheart. We actually we had our first visit was an office visit, and that's when the friend suicide issues came through. So thank you, Michelle.
Yeah, so
Sending love.
I remembered one of the questions I had for you.
Okay.
This food hangover. I cooked turkey for myself and my cat yesterday. So, and I'm still not exactly sure why I did it, other than I needed a little Thanksgiving feel. So now I'm feeling turkey full.
Yeah, you're feeling the effects of the Thanksgiving feel.
And the
That's
brain.
the whole gamut. Yes.
So the questions are kind of there, but okay. So when you mentioned earlier that it took you a while to listen to, like in the hero's journey, it's like we hear the call, but we're like, nah, not so much.
Right.
And then eventually we get the 2x4, and then we're like, okay. So I maybe share with our listeners a little bit about that, because really, if you think, I mean, to me, it's normal, and I forget that mediumship isn't normal to a lot of people. It's very, very out there, but to me, it's just a thing. It's what's gotten me through, my losses in my life. So I really relate and appreciate it. But as in speak, if you don't mind speaking to the resistance and the kind of, no, hearing the call, but going, no, not so much
Right.
period of time for you.
Right. Well, I feel like I had to come to the place of standing fully in my truth without worrying about how it was going to affect anyone else's opinion or what they felt about it. I used to always worry about, if I step into this, will my Baptist minister father disown me, or will my
Yeah.
very Christian based mother be upset about it, or will people see me in a different way? And I had to remember that that didn't matter. That in order to follow my, and I realized I couldn't be my most authentic self until I stepped into what everybody else thought was a little cuckoo or woo woo or crazy. And
Mm.
so for me, the resistance was all about feeling I needed to be validated within my gifts
Mhm.
in order to step out into them. And, I've shared this before. I think I've even shared it with you, that I think I set out for every degree and certification,
Mhm.
Reiki, reflexology, it was just like, I have a PhD in religious philosophy. I was like, what do I need to do to prove that I'm okay just to be? And then
Mhm.
I realized that none of that was important until I just stepped out into the truth in the same alignment to that it is to be of service. So when I activated it with my servant's heart, Patty, it just really kind of unfolded from there, and it became the truth that it is today, which is, my motto is, I am here to be a beacon of light and help others move through whatever it is they need to move through
Mm.
with the gift of mediumship.
Right, a beacon of light helping people move through whatever it is they need to move through.
Through.
That's beautiful. Did you say put on my service hat or my servant hat, or does it even matter?
My heart, I had to activate the heart of of a servant.
Servant.
Yes, of servant heart.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because I was raised Catholic, not Baptist, but a lot of similar, kind of rigid beliefs. And, I was taught growing up that you're supposed to pick a vocation or be of service. But it's interesting how that what the response I got from my family when I became a therapist is, well, when are you going to get a real job? What are you doing? What?
Oh goodness. Wow.
Yeah, because and don't you think it's people's fear? I mean, and I love what you said about, I had to decide it was what was right for me, and then I was going to be of service, a servant, and I had to fully step into to that and not worry about what anybody else thinks. And so, when I realized that if somebody doesn't align with what my truth is, there's something that is frightening to them. Like
Right.
I said to my sister yesterday on Thanksgiving, yeah, I don't talk about feelings much to you or my brother. And she goes, yeah, I know. We don't do that. I'm like, I know. Well, that's why I do what I do. And she goes, so that's why I couldn't do what you do. So
Right.
everybody's so different in how they process their beliefs and their feelings and their spirituality. So I love your message, because I think that's that's the authentic self, right? That's
Right. Oh, absolutely.
work, is helping people reconstruct their authentic self. And what you described was is so important. I even was writing for an article the other day, and somebody asked me that question, like, how do you like take the next step? And that's kind of what I said. I was like, whenever you have the what will so and so say,
Right.
you know,
Right.
you have to move past that and go, well, what does my heart say? Well,
Exactly.
and it's
Exactly. And
tricky, isn't it?
it really is, because I realized that going outside of myself all of these years to try to make something fit and happen, it was excruciating inside. I was not able to be my true self. And then when I stepped into my gifts and abilities as a medium, I was just it I mean, even talking about it, I light up.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
just, yeah, and it just, it really, and all I really had to say to it was yes. And then spirit and my spiritual entourage and my team, they unfolded the way.
Mhm.
And, like I said, I also had to be okay with not following a business model that doesn't serve, a soulpreneur's type venture, because I am of service from the heart. So therefore, we're going to be family. We're going to be friends. I'm again, I'm going to cry in sessions. It's going to be business as unusual, and that's that's how I love it, and that's how I like it, and that's how everybody else loves this practice as well. Because I try to stay relatable, because I always share, to be relatable is to be reliable. And I try to stay in a place of relation instead of the way a certain business model should look like. So that was another thing I told my guides and angels. Well, I'm not doing it the way you guys, like the way society is trying to tell me to run this business. I'm going to run it from the heart. And they're all like, duh, that's why we're here. That's why we're guiding you. That's why we're pushing you out here. Yes,
Preaching to the choir, right? Yeah,
exactly. Oh yeah, definitely. Definitely. So
I know. And that's my message for people. And I know, I'm in my world, I'm in my 60s now, it's been my life's journey. And I still sometimes get my foot wet and pull it back out and say, oh, I ought to do it the way everybody else says. But
right.
something with COVID is shifting for me.
Mhm.
And I think a lot of people too, because I think grief does open us. It opens us up to something more. And we're all in a collective grief right now. We've lost
Yes.
what's familiar in terms of how our lives operate, and
Mhm.
of course, literal losses, which is brutally sad. But I think we're having to really go inward and look at, who we are and what we want, because it doesn't. That's been my experience of grief. Is it pushes us to ask the big questions like, why am I here? What is my purpose? What do I want to do? As Mary Oliver would say, with this one wild and precious life. Is that the quote? So,
Yeah.
I think that to give people permission, and that's what I hear you say, is
Mhm.
I wasn't, it wasn't just, I'm a medium, okay, and this is easy.
Right.
It's more of the hero's journey of going through the process of really following the call. And then when you said, then I light up, and that's what I try and tell people. It's like, when we live our authentic self,
Mhm.
we're when we're aligned with our authentic self, it energizes us. It feels really good.
It does. It fuels the fire
Mhm.
that's within, and I love, or it flames it. I love it. It fans it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Which makes me
So,
think about Clarissa Pinkola Estes when she talks about the warming the stone child, where we all have an ember inside that sometimes goes out and it's almost gone, but it's always there, and we just have
air.
to fan that fire and
Right.
bring it back, full on. And so it's a great message for people to
Right.
that we don't just. I think we live in that kind of culture too. Like, don't feel sad. Just get over it and just decide what you want to do and set those goals for yourself and do it. It's not necessarily that easy, right?
Right. No, exactly. And one thing that I've started thanking people for when they say to me, when they tell me I'm weird, I'm like, "Oh, thank you. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much. You don't know how much that means to me." because just be. You have permission to be.
Yeah. Well, the other thing, a really good friend of mine from Virginia, who's also she doesn't call herself a psychic or a medium. She calls
Uh-huh.
herself a blender. And I'd say, I feel like I've lost my mind. And she goes, well, that's a good thing.
Yes,
Because that's a good thing. So I always think about
right.
that. It's like when we stop thinking and drop into our heart,
Heart.
drop into our center and our truth,
Hmm.
we operate in a completely different way.
Right. That whole Greg Braden and concept that the heart is 5,000 times stronger in the electromagnetic field than that of the logical mind
Yeah. Yeah.
and that reptilian brain.
Absolutely. In the heart math, he talks a lot about the heart
Oh,
math
yes.
and connecting that the heart is actually the regulatory agent. And, we want our brain and our heart to be in sync, or
Hmm.
they call it, it's a C word. There's my turkey fog. Anyway,
I love it.
yeah, well, I just love talking with you, Elisa. This has been super fun.
This
And
has been so beautiful.
anything else you want to say? Of course, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I'd love to know if Lawrence has something to share.
Oh, sure. Let's see. Goodness. First of all, he chimed right in. And just like I told you before we started to get myself in the space, I played a song that Lawrence and I have in common. But he just chimed right in with a smile. And first of all, he is laughing at your turkey coma after the after effect. And he Lawrence is just really coming in with personally for the two of you. There was something around November 22nd that was extremely important. Do you understand that?
That was our first date, and
Oh, wow.
that was also the day we did his memorial service 2 days.
Oh, okay. Okay, because he just said 11:22. Tell her 11:22.
Yeah,
Oh
yeah,
my
we had
goodness.
right before Thanksgiving, and he loved the holidays. So yeah, and then he went to see his sister in Vermont and texted me, and it was like after our first date, and I was
Right.
so already in love with him.
Mm.
He goes, "Do you want me to bring you a turkey from Vermont?" I was like, "Is he serious?"
Oh, I love
He was going to bring himself back.
it.
He was a
So
turkey.
did he bring you one too?
He was just kidding.
But
Yeah.
that's so funny though.
So like he was the turkey.
Yeah. Oh, that's so. Oh, okay. So he said 11:22, and I feel that this is significant for he and I, the full moon, but I'm wondering if the full moon is something significant for you and him. For me, the full moon was he passed during that full moon, and I was getting ready to file for divorce from someone. And he said, if you're going to do anything, exit out during this super full moon. And because it's just an empowering, impactful full moon. And then he passed away, and I and you talk about angry. I was really cursing at him. Are you kidding me? Not you.
Yeah.
It wasn't supposed to be you. Yeah.
It was so sudden, and I think a lot of people were angry because he was such a dear heart for people. But the full moon, yeah, a big deal. So that was
Okay.
a big super moon that night that he died,
Hmm.
and it was warm. We had a warm November, kind of like we were having a week or so ago, and it went on through. Um, he died on the 13th, 12th. Well, it's the 12th and 13th. They found him on the 13th, so I thought it was the 12th. But um, anyway, my friend Billy Ortiz, she's an incredible friend of mine, had come over that night, and we were doing art. And we went out and we did a fire pit, and the full moon came up over the roof of my house, and it was almost like watching a movie. Like it was so brilliant and so there, and it was like for some reason I felt Lawrence in the moon. Well, I think he had passed that day.
Hmm.
Him and I were doing a little break from talking for a while until our date that we had scheduled for the next week to just get
Right.
clarity on our relationship. So I didn't know that he had died, but I was like, I felt this strange paradox of I feel him with me in this moon,
Right.
I'm not sure what's going on. So yeah, that moon was intense. It
It
was like they called it the super moon, and it was huge and big. And I know you had that experience too of one
yes,
course at that time. And so of course he would
right.
remind us of that. So every time we
Yes,
which it will be again this Monday. I used to count the moons, and now that you mentioned that, I'm gonna have to go back and count how many full moons it's been because there's 13 full moons in a year. So if
right,
he was born 12 times 4, I guess you could add 4. Anyway, I'm not
right.
good at math, but I'm gonna have to figure out how many moons
How
because I'm
many moons it's been. Yes, yes,
on it
yeah.
on Monday, which is actually it's an eclipse full moon coming up on Monday.
Right. Right. Well, it's so, interesting that, you were talking about the full moon. It was probably like the moon in ET, like really big. Oh, you
My life, I love the moon, and never in my life will I probably ever see that again.
right. And he had even said, I spoke to him just 2 days before he passed. And, I was just asking for prayer because I was getting ready to make that move. And he said, absolutely, I'll offer up a prayer for you. And if this is any time to exit, it's for this super full moon that we haven't experienced in 70 years.
Wow, so something in him knew is what I'm hearing in that.
Yeah,
But
I think so too. I think there was an acknowledgement of knowing, of conscious, in inside his inner knowing knew.
yeah,
And you mentioned that you were seeing him in the moon that night. Well, I actually had a gallery that night, and I actually saw him in the aisle doing this, giving the prayer hands. And I went, "Oh, that'll remind me to check back in with Lawrence. Why am I seeing Lawrence here?
yeah,
Obviously, it's because I'm supposed to check back in with him." And then I learned a little later that that's when he passed. And it was amazing to see him, but it was also so very saddening because I told our friends, the Murdochs, I said I saw him in my gallery,
mhm.
and I was wondering why I saw his image in my gallery, and there it was.
It was so sudden, and that's kind of why I thought, because him and I were extremely intuitive, and you as well, and so that was the question that came up for me after it happened was how could none of us have known? And
Right.
so that's part of why I started writing the stories that later became my book, Letters to Freedom. But and it's like, where were the signs? Where were the clues? And I certainly found some, but that's another one that he had said that to you. But of course we
Mhm.
can't. That's part of I think isn't that part of the humanness is that we can't fully
Right.
know things, but it's kind of like the riddle again. It's like I believe he knew. I believe he knew, and I must have known too, and maybe that's why we did our little separation. But for him to say that to you of all times, please, this will be it, is like
Mm,
a
exactly. It
of
was it was the Thursday before he passed. I remember it so clear, and I was in my office in Arvada and looking out at the parking lot talking to him, and he's saying if you're going to pick a time to exit, it's going to be this super full moon. And he knew. So, yeah.
well, I'm so grateful for you, Lisa, because I know Lawrence had connected with you before him and I were together because he had lost his wife. And
Mhm.
so we have a long history of Lawrence connecting with Susan and then you and I connecting with Lawrence and Susan. And I
Yes.
don't think that there's any accidents, and I'm really grateful for you. Uh,
Thank you.
I know we have somebody, must be one of your peeps over here, Danny, wants says he's interested in knowing a few things. I
Well,
don't know
hi.
what it
Hi,
is.
Danny. What are the few things? Hope you're doing well. And I see Trisha giving hugs.
Hi, thank you. Hugs back.
Yes. Yes. Yeah,
They're
Danny's in my following or in my community.
I don't know if
But
he's still there, but I wanted to acknowledge that.
oh, well, hi, Danny. Hello, everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So grateful for you, Elisa, because yeah, and beautiful stories that we've shared through the years
Mm,
about Lawrence, and we do miss him, and a lot of people miss him because he was quite a light, quite a love. he brought a lot of hope to people. So
Oh, he certainly did, and that smile was so contagious. So, and I equally ditto, my friend. I appreciate you so much and how you show up for us all, the light beacon you are. So, thank you.
thank you. Yeah, this has been a wonderful way to spend our Black Friday. Um,
Yes, absolutely.
shopping, right?
Right. Oh, I know exactly. And if anybody wants to join me after this, I'm going to be giving my holiday specials. So so I'll hop back on my Facebook Live and share that with everyone.
So I think that Laura put your contact info in the post, but if it just in case if you want when we jump off, put it in the comments here.
Sure,
We'll
absolutely.
find you, get in touch with you, and do you want to tell everybody a little bit about what you're offering?
Oh yeah, sure, absolutely. Well, again, um, I always love holiday time, and it's really about giving and sharing. So I will share one that's exclusive. Well, actually, it's exclusive for the holiday special because I don't really share it in my practice as much. But one is energy clearing, and so I will be checking chakras and balancing. And that's you get a nice, pretty gift card with it that has the chakras on it. And basically, what I do is I'll check your chakras if they're off. We balance them. And then we also send you a little report card. So it's like a little Reiki report card on what chakras are off or down or low, and then I do work around them and we clear them, and then we send the report card to you of what chakras were off and were down, and then we show a cleared light spot on the chakra now, showing and signifying that it's clear, and then we seal it with an affirmation that you can carry around with you in your phone for for a few days. Usually that charge usually, and again, I don't even have it on my list of services as a service. It's usually $35. We're at, for the holidays, it's 25 for, so for $25 you can give someone the gift of energy balance and energy clearing. So that's one. And then I'll go ahead and share the other one if you want. Now, this one's my favorite, and it's only available for these 4 days. Sam, my son, and we're getting ready to launch it today, and the links to purchase will be so it's an upgrade. If you purchase a 15-minute reading for $80, you upgrade it. You get an extra 15 minutes. You can upgrade it to 30 minutes.
Oh, nice.
And it gets better. It gets better. It gets better. If you purchase 3 to give, you get 1 for yourself.
Oh, that's a great idea. Yeah.
So that's one thing that we're so about giving from the heart. And that was one thing that, as I sat in meditation with, that felt how I really wanted to give back this year. It has been such, like you said, it's been such a collective, a year of collective sorrow and struggle for many. And so that's how we at Elisa Insight are giving back.
Beautiful.
So yes.
Great.
Yes.
Great. Needed. So
Thanks
yeah.
for letting me share it. Yeah.
No, hopefully people will reach out and find that. It's a great opportunity. I mean, a lot of people are saying to me now, like, we don't want to go buy people's stuff anymore. Thinking about, well, what else is it besides, material stuff that you're going to clutter up and get dusty around your house? Those are great ideas. Super, super fun gifts.
Well, thank you. Yeah. Yeah,
Wow.
it's going to be a fun holiday season, being able to give in that way.
Yeah, I'm gonna about 3 people I know get my free gift. But thank you so much. It was so good to see you. I hate to say goodbye, but we won't for. well, it's not goodbye. It's until next time.
Yes, and it's always a pleasure, my love. It always is. So thank you so much for inviting me. I am so honored.
Gosh,
Thank
thank you
you.
so much, and thank you for the message from Lawrence and for
Mm.
your beautiful heart.
Oh,
Love you
thanks,
so much.
Patty. Love you.
Well,
Mwah. Bye, everybody.
and check out Elisa's page and all of the wonderful gifts. And we'll see you next week with who's on next week. It might be Kim
Oh, good.
or a friend we were talking about. If it's not next week, it's soon. But I have Hope Edelman, who's written a book on motherless daughters. She's amazing. I also have Sue Frederick, who's pretty well known in the grief work coming up. So yeah, I think Kim's next week, and then Hope and Sue. So thanks, Elisa.
And thank you, Patty. Thank you for doing this.
And I'm grateful for you.
So grateful for you, my friend. Love you.
Love you too. Bye bye.
Bye.